Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Show with your host, Jeff Lopes.
We are live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. We have on today Cody Jefferson. What is up, brother?
What's going on, man? It's good to be here.
I appreciate you being on here today. Usually when we start our podcast, I kind of dive into what you're currently doing, what you're currently up to. We're going to change it up today. Let's start off by Cody as a kid. Where'd you grow up? How many siblings? Give me your childhood growing up and all that. And let's ring through and talk and have a good conversation.
Let's go. All right. So I'm from Oklahoma. You can probably tell by the way I talk. And so everybody can, it's so funny because if you're watching this, you'll see that I'm covered in tattoos. If you're listening, you won't see, but I talk very different than the way that I look. And so it always throws people off. So I'm from small rural town in Oklahoma called Bixby. It's a suburb of Tulsa. And I've got a younger brother. I've got a younger sister. I could tell you all like the drama side of my childhood, but what I love to talk about is I was raised due to some circumstances by primarily my grandparents, which is a really interesting way to live and move and have your being as a kid because you're raised by a different generation. So a lot of what I do now is simply a model of what I saw my grandfather doing, waking up really, really early, being in the Word, and praying and having everything done to fill his own cup before anyone else woke up. And so that's kind of been my frame for my entire life. It wasn't a book that I read. It was just, I'm just more as caught than taught, And so I grew up very simply. A lot of my childhood was in a single bedroom trailer. And then we moved on up. We're the Jeffersons. We moved on up. We moved into a double wide, which was really amazing. And so graduated from Bixby. I've been in Bixby or been in Tulsa my entire life. I travel a lot now with what I do. Got into occupational ministry at 19 while in university and while also getting my barbering license. So I'm a guy who has a lot of pieces of paper. I was in occupational ministry for 13 years, transitioned into the coaching consulting space around 4 years ago. And now the whole tagline is helping good men become great and helping great men create movements.
Yeah, that's a good little rundown. So give me a little rundown of your grandparents. What do they mean to
Please.
you? And
oh my gosh.
Let's talk about that.
So grandfather, you can't go anywhere in Bixby, Oklahoma and somebody not tell you about Charlie Jefferson. That is my grandfather, patriarch of our family, one of the deacons of our small Baptist church in Bixby. He was the guy that he worked harder than anyone I know. He set the bar. Was he perfect? No, right? Nobody is. And you don't know that until you get older yourself and you start to recognize, okay, there were some things here that made him human. But back then he was just Superman. And he was a woodworker. He was a gardener. He was a hard worker. He was a farmer. I grew up hunting and fishing and doing all the things that you do in rural America. He was the guy that had a prayer list a mile long. He's the guy that every kid wanted to be around. I just remember he was just a magnet for kids. Kids loved him. Everybody knew him. He's the guy that we had a quarter-acre garden growing up, and he would take food to everyone. My grandmother was always preparing meals for people. He was always at the hospital praying for people. Anything anybody needed, they were always at the church, always serving. My grandfather was a president of the Oklahoma Gospel Singing Association. My grandmother played piano. Second to that, I started piano when I was, I think, 7 years old. And so there's not a moment that you couldn't call on us and we could sing in perfect 3-part harmony. That was just what we did. And I was the kid reading shape notes at 9 years old. For your listeners, you're like 2 listeners that know what shape notes are in gospel music. And that was the frame, man. That's how I grew up. We grew up fairly simply. We always had everything that we needed. I was the kid. My brother and I, we had bicycles that we rode the wheels off of. We were gone in the summertime from dusk until nighttime. You would catch us in the creek, catching crawdads and catching fish. And that's all. Like that was it. That was all we did.
But wasn't it such a good? Wasn't it such a? I know, but wasn't it
so good, man? So good.
I was having this conversation, Cody, with the other day, and I mean, it's a different time zone, right? I mean, I got a 12-year-old and 14-year-old, and allow them to actually physically cross the street. We're watching them now, which is crazy. And as a kid, when I was 9, 10 years old, I came from a blue collar family, so my dad was working Ford Motors. My mom had a 9-to-5 job. I would come home and I would literally let the dog out, grab a peanut butter sandwich, get on my bike, and go play ball hockey or go play baseball.
That's what you do.
And you were gone till dark. And nobody questioned. And no cell phones, no calling.
No.
The odd time you would go to a friend's house and call your parents to tell them you're gonna be a little late or something. Yep. But it was just, you're outdoors all the time. And I've actually transitioned that into my kids. My kids, if you watch their videos, we're outdoors all day. My kids don't play video games.
Same. Oh, so my son, he's 6. His name is Stetson, like the cowboy hat, Stetson Foster. And so he's either that's a name that can go from, he could be an actor, a doctor, or he could be a professional bull rider. You just don't really know. Stetson is a strong name. So, but we're the same way. We love to be outside. If it's spring, we're catching turtles. If it's winter, we're out we're doing whatever we need to do to stay outside.
Yeah. So we're the same way.
We love it. It's our frame. It's how we grew up. His mom, who is, just one of my dearest friends, and his bonus dad. Some call it a stepdad. It's bonus dad. Yeah. They grew up the same way. So we all have the same experience, right? So we're together all the time. Yeah. And so it's nothing for us to be, at a bonfire at their house, or we're at the farmer's market on a Saturday. It's just a really beautiful way to do life. It's a simpler way to do life. And, a lot of what I do is fairly hooked up. I travel a lot speaking, I travel a lot consulting. And so to be able to have a home base that is secure, a little bit, very grounded and simple is nice.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you need that when you're so, like myself, I'm just always go. And my wife's a pure opposite. My wife wants the simple life. My wife says every day, honestly, Cody, my wife, her saying is, if today didn't change, it was a good day.
There you go.
She needs a very simple, relaxed. It's all about the family. It's all about building memories with the kids. So it gives it a nice balance coming home to that, right?
Sure.
So let's talk. There's so many areas I want to go with. Tattoos. What age was your first tattoo? What was it?
My first tattoo, it was a tribal sun on my back at 18 in 2002. Here's the deal. Like a couple months after that, I got a tribal band that's now covered up by a half sleeve. I'm fully sleeved. I've got hand tattoos, knuckle tattoos, neck tattoos. If you're listening, like I look like I just rolled off of Sons of Anarchy. It's a lot of tattoos. But my first tattoo was a tribal sun, and then my second tattoo was a tribal band. You could not get more Nick Lachey 98 degrees than me. It was a whole vibe.
Do you realize I was going to go there, but I didn't want to.
Listen, I got every boy band tattoo you could. Yeah. Down to like the Chinese symbols on my lower stomach. I'm just a walking cliche, Jeff. That's what I am. I'm a walking cliche.
When's the last tattoo you got?
The last tattoo that I got was about a year and a half ago, and I got a lion head that covers my entire stomach.
Very, very
and
cool.
So it's just on par with the brand.
I have a lion head on I got this years ago. Yeah. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. So fatherhood. Let's talk about that for a bit.
I'm in it. We can talk about that all day.
Where's your mindset with fatherhood? Like, what is your purpose as a dad? What is your meaning? What are you trying to teach, lessons you're trying to teach your kid? There's so many angles we could go with it, but let's just talk about your son and the impact of what he means to you, and how your life altered or changed when he was born.
Oh my God. So this will make me emotional every time. So we just need to prep for that. My son is my guy. He is the reason for everything that I do. He is the reason that I answer the question every single day of what needs to die to me to become the man that I said that I would be. Every week I go to counseling to work on me. I have coaches, I have counselors. Like, I am so knee deep in personal development. And it's because I recognize that if I don't transform pain, I transmit it. We all do. We all have generational wounds that we pass on if we don't do the hard work of transforming them. And so he is the driver. He is a driver for like what's possible. If there was one thing that I could share with my son, if there was one thing that I could help him understand as someone who I'm a 3-wing 2, I am an ENFJ through and through. I am a true extrovert. But with that, because of, again, I was raised primarily by my grandparents, there's some reasons for that. And there's some trauma around that. And we can get into that, but one, it exacerbates old wounds, and two, like, that's not the frame that I want to focus on. Yeah. But there is a history. And because there is a history, I am such a fixer, a pleaser, and always on front facing leadership. Make sure you have everything you need and you're doing well and you are winning and you feel good, because I had to manage a lot of emotions for adults that couldn't manage their own as a kid. And it taught me to always have a mask on to perform, and I equated love with my ability to fix people and to solve other people's problems and to make sure that you're okay and that you're not emotionally unstable or depressed or anxious or suicidal. Like, that's a lot of what I grew up with. And so if there's one thing, like, I help my son understand, one, it's that he's enough. He's always been enough. He's always going to be enough, that he's not responsible for my emotions, that he's not responsible for managing the emotions of those around him, that his purpose in life, that his potential in life, it's not an expectation to live up to. It is a God-given promise that you get to live out of. And when that can be the frame, when that can be how he lives and moves and have his being, not because he's got to live up to dad's expectation, but because he has a heavenly father that created him in his mother's womb before he ever knew that he was even a name in the universe. And he gets to live out of that every amount of goodness, everything in me that's good is him. And no matter what, right? Like, he is not the result of, when I was a kid, I'll share a little story with you. When I was a kid, I stole a piece of jewelry from my grandma. I was second grade. I was in love with this girl and I needed to get her something to solidify the deal. You know what I mean? Like, listen, we were watching Never Ending Story at the YMCA in second grade, our fingers crossed. I was for sure that we were going to get married and I needed to get her a token. So I stole a piece of jewelry from my grandma. And being from small town Oklahoma, I was a really good thief, left it in my jeans pocket. My dad found it, asked me where I got it, said my grandma gave it to me. He marched me right over to my grandma's, which is about 5 minutes away, to confront it. And so he said, you need to go talk to your grandma, Nanny. This is that's her name. And my grandfather was Pappy. And so I go to talk to my nanny. And so we have this conversation. I don't really tell her I took it, but I kind of insinuated that I did, enough at 8 years. Like, let me listen, I told you, even though I didn't tell you. And so we go back and she asked my dad asked her, did he tell you? And I'm like, yeah, I told you, but I didn't. So she says, no. And I'm like, you didn't have my back. And so I'm scared. My grandpa's there, Pappy's there, my dad's there. You don't want that in small town Oklahoma. You don't want to lie and have both of the patriarchs there. That's a problem. And so my dad said, I'll always be on your side if you tell me the truth. My grandfather then took me in the bedroom with him. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I'm praying. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm meeting Jesus today. I'm not sure. And he sat me down. He said, what's your name? I said, Cody. He said, what's your full name? I said, Cody Jefferson. He said, you're Jefferson. I said, yes, sir. He said, Jeffersons don't lie. You lied, but you're not a liar. Jeffersons don't steal. You stole, but you were not a thief. Understand that your name carries weight. And no matter what you do in this life, you are a Jefferson, and that means something. And there's nowhere that you can go. There's no hill that you can climb. There's no rock that you crawl under that you get to escape the name, and that you get to escape who you are, and who you are is chosen, who you are is loved. And that stayed with me. And if there's something that I want my son to know, it is that he's chosen, that he's called, that he's equipped, that he has everything that he needs, that he doesn't have to live up to the expectation of anyone, that he just gets to live out of a promise that was created for him before he was ever born.
Yeah, that's powerful. I mean, it's crazy. You truly understand unconditional love once you have a child.
Oh my gosh. And well, I grew, yeah.
It changes your mindset. It changes your perception. It changes their wins.
Yeah.
Magnitude, your wins so much more.
Yeah.
Now,
well,
I was
just going to say, you just recognize too, that like, your parents can internalize it like they didn't do a good job when you do things differently, but it's not that they did. Like, I had a great dad, great mom, right? There were things that they did, and there are ways in which they live and move and have their being that I want to emulate. And I want to be the kind of dad that my dad is in a lot of ways. And then there are other ways that like I learned that like I want to do things different. And so also giving yourself the grace to recognize like, I'm for sure gonna like jack him up somehow. I don't know how, but for sure, like there's something I'm gonna do something that's gonna mark him or like create some sort of thing that he's gonna have to work through. We all do. And so recognizing my job isn't to be perfect. My job is to be present. And my job is to recognize that in everything I'm doing, I'm shaping a human. Like in everything I'm doing, I'm informing his personality. I'm informing how he deals with trauma. I'm informing how he loves. I'm informing how he receives love and how he receives affirmation and how he sees himself as valuable. And whether it's contingent on what he does or how he acts or who he is in front of people or who he is behind closed doors or how for so many, like how he shows up on social media, smile, the camera's on, smile, this is going on. Hey, I need you to suck it up. Hey, we're in church now. Hey, you're in school now. Like, is he trying to live up to an expectation? Everything we're doing is shaping
100%.
Their personalities. And so one, giving yourself some grace that like, okay, I don't have to be perfect. I have to be present. But two, also recognizing what am I carrying into this conversation from my own childhood that I need to let go of, that I need to work through, that I need to transform so that I don't transmit it to him or her if you have a daughter.
Yeah. And I think it's powerful that, I mean, that's something I you want to call it preach, but I push to a lot of the gentlemen I speak to is being aware of how important we are as indirect mentors to our children.
Yeah.
And it happens every once in a while. You slip and you forget and you go with the daily motions, and then something hits you in the face. And you're like, holy shit, like that happened. I'll give you the simplest little example that happened not too long ago. My son plays baseball. Incredible little story. Like I said, when he was born, whole right side of the body had no function because his brain has so much damage. So he learned how to do everything with his left hand. Eventually, with all the exercise and therapy, now he's being able to bounce out. But he learned how to do everything with his left. So he became this little left-handed pitcher, and an incredible little left-handed pitcher. So we were at a facility. Dad's playing back catcher. We're there. He's doing a bullpen. Incredible little bullpen. We're gunning him, and he hit 55, 56 miles an hour, and we're gunning him, and everybody's watching because everybody loves him there because he's so little tiny. Everybody's just a sweet, sweet soul. And these two boys come in, and they're both, my son's 12 and they're like 14, 15, never played baseball. This is a pretty high athlete facility. And these boys just wanted to do the batting cage. So they go in there doing the batting cage, and they're watching my son. And when we're done, they're like, hey sir, can I use your radar gun? I'm like, yeah, cool, no problem. So I passed them the radar gun. They went into another bullpen. They're just two kids, high school kids, playing around. They're pitching, and they come back and they're like, thanks for using the gun. I go, what'd you guys get? And one of them's like, oh, I got 38. And the other one's like, I got 41. My reaction was like, because I'm so proud of my kid, proud daddy. I'm like, oh, this little 12-year-old's got like 50, hit 55 or whatever today. And they're like, oh, that's awesome. So we went to the car. We're driving home. My son's super quiet, 12-year-old, super, super quiet. And he looked at me. He's like, and I go, what's wrong, T? And he goes, can I say something to you, Dad? I go, yeah. He goes, you've always told me to treat everybody equally, but don't compare yourself to no one and never put people down. And I'm like, okay. He goes, what you did to those boys, you compared them to me and you made them feel not as equal or not as good as me. And he's giving me this lecture. And I'm like, that was an indirect, this is a 12-year-old giving me this lecture. I didn't even know what to say. I was just like, wow. And it's powerful because it's something simple like that, but it's just how we're constantly indirectly mentoring, whether it's good or bad. We have to be aware of those things at all times, right? Which is pretty amazing, pretty powerful. And this is it's awesome. So do you have full custody of your son, or is it shared custody?
No, we're joint.
Joint custody, So
you'll see me with him pretty much every day.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I see the pictures. Yeah.
So we are. It's so funny. Like, so his mom, myself, and his stepdad, we're all like super close friends. We live 5 minutes from each other.
Was it always like that? Like, did that build?
No,
like,
no.
No, that's like
a year ago, maybe. Yeah. Like we were great, then we weren't. And now we are again. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of humility. It took a lot of ownership. A lot of it on my side, and a lot of recognizing again. So, like full disclosure, I'm 37.
Yeah.
My parents divorced when I was 4. I've never had dinner with my parents. I've never shared a meal with them together. They've never been in the same room together. I've never actually heard them have a conversation together.
Wow.
And unconsciously, I was creating that. I didn't even mean to. It was wild. And so again, like it was my counselor. It was like slowly, gently, like, hey, like you recognize that you're doing this. No, here's what's happening. Okay. Like, right. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make it drink. It's an Oklahoma thing. But eventually it got to the point where it was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the thing that I talk about. I talk about if you don't transform your pain, you transmit it. Oh God, I'm doing it. Shit. Yeah. And so there was a lot of humility, like, hey guys, I'm messing up here. This is me. And there's like, it's us too. I'm like, well, sure. But like, no, I got to own this. Like, this is me. And so when you can have that kind of humility and recognize, like, so many dads, moms too, I would say, but like, I'm going to talk from the dad perspective because I'm a guy. Yeah. I'm not a mom. When there's another guy in the picture, when there's a stepdad, like we get really defensive because of custody. Like they're with your son or your daughter, your kids as much as you are, sometimes more.
Yeah.
And it can get really, really defensive. It can get territorial.
Yeah.
And you can spend your whole life fighting battles of no eternal consequence, just creating consternation, frustration, anxiety, and trauma for your kid. Or you can recognize, you know what, this is a really, and not all circumstances are created equal, but what I recognize this is like, I actually really like this guy. Like he's a good, solid human being, and he loves my son like his own. And so we can keep doing this, or we could recognize that we're partnering up to raise a young man together, and, you know, two heads are better than one and two perspectives are better than one. And we both have the same vision. We both have the same moral compass. We both have the same code of ethics. We both have the same spiritual practices. We both have the same drive. Like, let's do this together. And when you can recognize that, well, then all it does is make everything so much easier, so much more simple, but it also, like, your kids come alive because now there's not a competition.
Yeah.
There's not I have to say this to mom, but I have to say this to dad. I have to pretend like this is my favorite, but then I have to pretend like this is my favorite. Like there isn't any of that.
Yeah.
Right. There's just love and grace and humility and coexisting and co-parenting and friends and fun. Like I was over there all morning for Easter taking pictures of everyone, and then it was my family on the backside of Easter. And so it's a gift, and it's a gift that you work toward, but anything worth having is, you know, it's going to take work. And so really grateful. We try to again, not in some like really corny, superficial social media way, but we do try to set the bar for co-parenting and to show people what's possible. Show people hasn't always been easy, but this is what's possible. This is what's possible, right? Like it's not uncommon for me to go to breakfast with my son's stepdad's mom. Like she's one of my favorite people. People are like, well, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, like she's cool. She's great. She's great to talk to. And it makes everything so much more alive and vibrant and peaceful and cohesive.
I think the first word you said there when you're describing everything, all those emotions for your son, is the word that keeps coming back and you keep repeating is love, right? And is that is present Loved. On every angle.
Yeah.
Everything else works its way around.
Yeah. Because it's collaboration now. It's not competition. It's not 100%. Competition, right?
Are you in a relationship now?
I'm not.
Okay.
With Jesus. with my son. Yeah. No, you know, I am focused on, I'm focused on him.
Focused on yourself.
And I'm focused on myself, the movement, the business. I do a few different things. And so that keeps me pretty hooked up. And that's my focus. Yeah.
What does music mean to you? You said obviously it was a big part growing up. And
music.
Gosh. And I do see it's a big part still of what you do. So let's dive into that and go through the journey of your music.
Music. Okay. So that's funny.
I'm going everywhere.
Nobody's asked me that.
And that's
so nobody even knows that I was a musician. So I was a professional touring musician for 10 years. So I was in occupational ministry for 10 of those years in tandem with pastoring. I traveled the country. So I was a session musician. So I cut guitar and piano tracks for a few different studios. I traveled the country as a worship leader, supporting artist, and for a few different CCM artists. And then was also a worship pastor for my local church, and was in a few bands, traveled the country, and traveled, did the whole conference camps for the church side of things. And then I was in a few like what we'd call bar rock or red dirt country bands. Yeah. And so kind of ran the gamut. Music is like breathing to me. Singing, playing. I just do it for fun now. So I don't gig. I don't have time. Or I say that I don't make time for it. It's not a priority to me anymore. Right. Yeah. But man, music is life. I love worship. I've been really, really fortunate to be able to be connected to some of the greatest worship leaders and pastors and writers of my generation, even the generation before me. Some that you'd know really, really well, and some you've never heard of. And it's a gift. Music is a gift. Music was a big part of my family growing up, and it is still a big part of me now. My son loves music. Oh my gosh. Yeah. He, listen, I love him. I love him so much. He can't carry a tune in a bucket. Bless his heart. I'm going to go ahead and say it on the record. He gets that from his mom. But what he also gets from his mom is she's a dance coach. And that kid has got moves like Jagger. I can't dance. Listen, you don't want to see me dance. It is literally so stereotypical and such a cliche. I can't do it. I can play music. I got rhythm. But when you put that into like a movement form, it's not going to happen for me. But my son can dance to music. It's great. And so he kind of got the best of both worlds. Like he loves music. I
always say people that could dance to music usually have a good ear for music.
Totally. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's interesting that he doesn't have any talent for it.
Yeah, listen, it's cute when he sings, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things like, that's really cute. But it's like, woo. I don't know. Is there any part of you that would want to, did you ever come up with like an album, a single? Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple singles on Spotify.
You do, huh? Okay, I'm gonna check these out. There's no part of you that ever wants to just give it one more go or something like that. I know you're busy with your career, you're making money, you're doing well. Is there? I mean, there's certain. I always tell people this.
Yeah.
You always hear this too, Cody. If you put somebody on their deathbed and they're lying there and there's last couple breaths, a lot of people at that moment focus on and say, I wish I gave everything to this. This was my true passion, but I never really followed it because money, family, other things, prerogatives changed the path.
Yeah.
Is music something that later on you think in your head, you might say, you know what, I should have gave it one little go or something like that just for myself?
You know, I accomplished so much in music, and I was able to do so much cool stuff, and I was able to travel with so many cool people and get to meet who are now still some of my closest friends. I mean, if we're going to keep it 100 on this, again, I've never talked about this before. Jeff, I'm
going to get your ass on the voice.
Here's the deal. Like I'm good. So I'm one of those guys. Some listeners are going to hear this as arrogant. I don't mean it that way. I'm good at pretty much everything I do. I'm one of those people. Like, you give me an instrument, I was good. I picked it up fast. Yeah. Singing, picked it up fast. I did really, really well in school. Academically, I was top. Like I did really well in university. I did really well. Speaking, everything front facing. I'm just naturally pretty good at everything. Part of that's my personality type. Yeah. And part of that is just, there's this like proving thing. So it's like, oh, I can do that. Anything you can do, I can do better. Right. So like, it's fine. I'll figure it out.
I'm the same way.
Okay. So all that to say, what I love about music, I love just as much about speaking and traveling and being on stages and leading organizations and having conversations at conference tables or having conversations at conferences, having conversations in masterminds and teaching, a few thousand people on a Zoom call for someone. So I still get to be in front of people. I don't have a guitar around me anymore, but I still have a microphone and I'm still leading. And so I still feel, again, a true extrovert. Like, you give me a microphone and a stage and I'm at home. Yeah. I still get to do that almost every single day. Right. So even like we talked about podcasts before we jumped on here, I don't have my own podcast, but I'm on I'm tracking a podcast right after this one. I'm on, anywhere between 2 and 5 a week, virtual summits, speaking, I'm in 5 states over the next 8 weeks. Yeah. This is what I get to do all the time. Yeah. So I don't feel like I'm missing out because I still I just don't have a guitar. I just don't have to sing anymore.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. You're speaking.
Sure.
When was the first time you stepped on stage at an actual live event?
Like actually speaking, not like drama in high school or anything else?
No, actual speaking.
19. 19.
So you started quite young.
Yeah. Yeah. I stepped into, again, ministry at 19, and I had no business. I had no business teaching anybody anything about Jesus. Here's what I had. I was at a mega church. I mean, back in the day, like, 3,000 to 5,000 people. That was a big church.
Yeah.
And the pastor saw something in me that I probably didn't see in myself at the time, but saw that, like, okay, he can play music, he can sing, he's pretty good at communicating. Like, I was feeling it out. I didn't really know anything. I didn't know the dynamics of speaking. I didn't know how to articulate or formulate a true presentation or a 3-point talk or a conversion conversation. I didn't know any of that. Yeah. But I knew how to make people laugh. I knew how to engage people. I knew how to be quick on my toes. And so when you have that kind of recipe and you have a certain aesthetic about you, I mean, I feel like those are the only qualifiers. Like, you look good, you talk good, you play good, let's put you on the big stage. Yeah. And so it was a trial by fire. And I'm really grateful because there was some really great mentorship underneath that really helped me to really form some deep humility in what I do. And I was around some real spiritual giants. Oklahoma, like Tulsa, is like the buckle of the Bible Belt. Like, we are where the charismatic evangelical word of faith movement started. Yeah. So you have this really, really rich tapestry and history of just theological and spiritual heavyweights. Yeah. And I'm very grateful that I've been able to study and to walk with a lot of them and to be under their leadership. And so I just got a master class almost every day. Yeah. And so the transference then into what I do now, it was so second nature. People ask me, like, how hard was it to make the shift from church stages to entrepreneurial and leadership development stages? I'm like, it's so much easier because, like, I'm not like selling salvation anymore. Like, I'm selling product, service, software. I'm selling hope. I'm selling ideas, concepts. I'm selling potential. I'm selling mindset. I'm not selling the weight of salvation. Like, I was selling Jesus to teenagers. I can sell you anything, right? If I can keep teenagers engaged for an hour, I got you. That's fine. Yeah. So I was 19, and I'm super grateful because everything that I did, it was like Karate Kid. You don't see it at the time. You don't know that you're painting the fence. Yeah. Right. You don't know that every other day I was on a stage. Yeah. And just putting those reps in. Sometimes it was 5 people. Sometimes it was 500 people. Sometimes it was 5,000 people. Yeah. Biggest was 40,000 people. Like, and you don't recognize in the moment how those reps shape you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you do. I mean, it
doesn't know anything.
It becomes muscle
like scales on a guitar.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Let's dive into fitness now. I like going different places with this conversation. Let's go. Fitness is a huge part of what you do. I see you're of course. Yeah. Working out.
I do. You're like, I see your pictures on Instagram.
How much is that part of your life, and how, like, I always tell everybody, like, family is everything to me. It's funny. Sure. I want to drive back to something you said, and it's something that's very important to my heart. Something you said, you never saw your parents have a meal. 11 and a half years ago, when my son came home, I changed a lot of my life, and I was that entrepreneur that was working crazy hours. I was never home. And that changed, and that put a focus and a purpose of where I needed to be. And for the last 11 and a half years, dinner time is a special time for us. Like, I'm home every day for dinner. Every day, Monday to Friday, I'm home for dinner. And I find, and it's something me and my wife discussed at a very young age with our kids, where we wanted the dinner table to be that comfort spot, that open dialogue. So that dinner table from day one was an open dialogue, to have an open conversation with the meal. Now my daughter's 14 in high school, coming home and sitting there telling us stuff that most 14-year-old girls wouldn't tell their parents, because she has that comfort zone.
Trust.
So I think that is something that I hold very close to me. And I think that's something that's very powerful for a lot of people to understand. With yourself now, going back to fitness. Yeah. When did that become a big part of your life, and has it always been a big part of your life? And give me your routine, and what do you do to take care of yourself?
Oh, okay. It's always been a big part of my life. Yeah. I've always loved working out since I was a kid. Always been very active. Again, we were raised outside. All we did was play outside, and so that lends to its own level of fitness. When you're always running or on a bicycle, or you're lifting things, you're climbing trees. That's going to lend itself to a lot of body weight training that you don't even know that you're doing. I wrestled through school, and so that required a lot of just body strength in a different way, because you're using a lot of leverage. And so
did you wrestle right through high school?
Oh yeah. Wrestled through high school and walked on university.
Oh, you did, huh?
I didn't get a scholarship or anything for, I wasn't that good. And so
that's a big wrestling state.
Oh my gosh.
Massive wrestling state.
Oklahoma it's known for wrestling.
100%.
Yeah, we love it. And so, that was my wheelhouse. I got really into CrossFit for a while, got certified in CrossFit, then got my NASM just for fun, just because I've got a lot of pieces of paper. I just love collecting pieces of paper, apparently. And I like knowing about it.
Dive back. Why did you get certified as a CrossFit? Did you actually want to teach, or you just to do it?
Just to do it. So here's the deal. Growing up, my grandpa, he could just do anything. It was crazy. And some of that was just because we had to, we didn't really have, again, we don't like dirt poor or anything, but we just didn't really have a whole lot. So you just learned to do stuff. And, I just grew up wrenching on cars. I've been I've been a mechanic for almost 20 years, been a licensed barber for close to 20 years.
We're going to talk about that in a sec.
Let's go. So my grandfather, I just remember a conversation. We were in his wood shop. And I was sanding. I was probably sanding a birdhouse. I don't know. I'm just assume something like that. Yeah. And he said, never stop working with your hands. He said, there might become a day when everybody and their brother has a degree, and they're not going to be worth anything. And what's going to be worth something is people who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. And so I just took that to heart. I've always been somebody that, I work with my hands less now. And that's actually been, Jeff, a really big reframe for me, because for a long time, a lot of my brand was very much motorcycles, garage, wrenching on stuff. And now a lot of it is being on airplanes and traveling a lot. And I had to really reframe my whole mindset around the fact that okay, just because I don't do as much with my hands anymore, and I travel more, and I'm living what we call just a higher, just a higher end lifestyle. Yeah. That I'm not disrespecting, I'm still a Jefferson. I'm not disrespecting my grandfather or my dad, or I'm not disrespecting the fact that we come from blue collar, that I'm not as blue collar anymore. That was a real mindset shift for me. And I would say probably for so many of your listeners, that we grew up in a certain way. And then you feel guilty. I can't ascend above this, because if I do, then am I above them? And I don't want to be above them, because I can't outwork them. And if I'm not outworking them, can I make more than them? Because that doesn't feel right. And you have to work through all of these paradigm shifts, new levels, new devils, they say, and it's true. It's real. And so, I love working with my hands. I love getting dirty. I just don't do it as much anymore.
It's funny you're saying that. I mean, I'm coming from the same mindset. My dad, European, he could build a house. My dad I came from a European family, but my dad would cook more than my mom. I grew up in this whole different dynamic where, even though I'm busy, I go, but I love cooking. Anything to do with my house. Yeah. I rather take my time and spend 3 months and do it on my own than pay somebody to do it. I find that joy of still hands. I could build anything myself. I could do anything electricity wise. And I've learned it all off my dad, seeing my dad when I growing up. So I love physically still. I have a 79 Camaro. I rebuilt it myself.
Love it.
I love physically doing stuff like that because, and I'll take my time. I'm not going to rush on it. I'll take my time. Sure. But I love still getting my hands dirty. So I appreciate that side of it. Right. It's just, but I'll only do it for myself, and it'll be a little fun project on the side, but I love still physically. I think that's something so powerful, being able to build something with your hands and be able to do it. So give me understand where you went with that conversation, saying your brand was motorcycles. What do you mean by that? Give me a little understanding of that.
Oh, I was very, very connected to to that side of myself. Like a lot of the pictures that I would post would be of my garage, of like my wall of tools, all of my motorcycles that were in pieces. Cause I would, when I stepped out of occupational ministry and stepped into coaching, like it wasn't some like 6 figures in 6 weeks dream. You know what I mean? It's not like all the stuff they market on the internet.
Yeah, of course.
Like I was doing everything that I could to just make ends meet.
Yeah. Which is most coaches.
I was flipping Harleys. I was doing graphic design. I was building websites. I was playing music around town. I was cutting hair out of the front room of my house. I was doing all these different things to make it work. And so that became part of the brand was, like, oh, here's Cody. He's really relatable. Like he's covered in tattoos. He is a man's man. He works on motorcycles. He loves Harley Davidson. And I still love those things and do those things. It's simply that like, I actually don't have time to do those things anymore. Like I'm, whether I'm in, California every month. Like I'm there every month because I'm a part of a private equity fund that I'm an advisor for. And so we're constantly doing things out there, whether I'm traveling, speaking, right? Like I kind of traded 2 wheels for 2 wings. Now that things are open back up.
Yeah. When did you become part of that equity fund? And when did you actually shift more into that side of the business aspect of the private lending and all that stuff?
Yeah. So that happened probably like 2 months ago. Like that's fairly.
This is fairly new.
So that's fairly recent because I mean it hasn't been in conception that long, maybe 8 months. Okay. And so it's some of my really, really close friends that started it, and they had me come out to speak and to keynote. Yeah. And after keynoting, I was like, dude, I want to stay in on, like, I want to be a player in this. Like, I want to help these organizations, these companies. I want to help these entrepreneurs, and my skill sets and insights bring a different flavor to what we have. Like, we've got guys who've done, over 100 exits as advisors and chair members. And I'm not that. Yeah. But I have the interpersonal side, right? So we have the IV equals EV, interpersonal value equals
100%,
enterprise value. Yeah. And so, I bring that piece. I bring a lot of the spiritual component, a lot of the fulfillment side of things, the questions that money doesn't answer. And so that's really where I've found a sweet spot over the years. Even, I've been working with higher net worth individuals for the entirety of my coaching experience. It's typically not the, let me help you make your first 10K. It's like, okay, when we're scaling multi 7 figures to 8 figures to 9 figures to exits, how do we not, sacrifice our soul on the altar of our success? How do we create the infrastructure that grows a team from 500 to 1500 as we scale to worldwide? How do we start to begin the process of like the mental, the mental shift that happens as we move towards M&A or, initial public, like it's as we start to have those conversations, and we start to have the conversation of what would it look like if this isn't your baby anymore, when you've spent 12 to 15 years building it and that's been your whole identity, then what? Because it's not even about the money at this point. It's not like that, because the money's just an idea at this point, because we're talking,
at that point,
quarter to $500 million. Like this is not about money anymore. This is like the scale of the game and the growth and the mountain. And if the mountain doesn't exist anymore, who am I? Because I climb mountains. That's all I do. Yeah. So helping guys through those conversations, that's what I've done. And that's what even in ministry, like I was working with, I was walking alongside, guys who were, pastoring very, very large communities and speaking for, traveling and speaking and helping them reconcile some of the questions of their own faith, of their own fulfillment, of, their families and their value propositions. Because again, it's really easy for them. It's easier to sacrifice your soul on the altar of your ministry. So
embrace the line. Where did that come from, and how did that all start?
Yeah. So it was originally Embrace the Line of the Tribe of Judah, but that was such a long, cumbersome URL. Like, and trying to put that on a t-shirt, it like wrapped around the whole thing. It's like, that's not cool. So Embrace the Lion, right? So the idea was, and it was a bit crass, but like you're showing up as what we would call like a cat, but there's a different word for it that we won't say on your show. So you're showing up as that, right? When there's a lion inside you. And so the whole tagline was, like, I'm not here. Like there's a lion inside of you, right? Like, and if you're in a cage, that cage is locked from the inside. That's kind of a nod back to C.S. Lewis, The Great Divorce, that if hell is in fact real, that hell is a gate that is locked, but is locked from the inside. Yeah. And so we are the ones who are responsible anytime for letting ourselves out. We just don't, because we would rather stay in the familiarity of what is known and the cumbersome and the familiar than to dare to go into what the promise is for us. Yeah. And so that was the whole MO. You know, when I first got started, I went to my first conference, and I was talking to a guy named Tom Bilyeu, who was one of the keynotes. And my again transition into this space was real quick, because I already knew how to speak. I already knew how to leverage connections. And so, like, when people say, how can I do what you do? I'm like, well, it's not like I can't just duplicate this, because I had a lot of things going for me. I try to be really front facing with that. Like my transition was pretty quick. And so while I didn't, 6 figures in 6 weeks, within 6 months I was there. Okay. And not just a run rate, like collected, like we're now growing. Yeah. But Thomas, he's like, what do you do? And dude, I was so on the spot. I'd never answered it before. I was fresh out of ministry. I didn't know. I had 5 pastor friends take their lives over the past couple of years, which is one of the reasons that Embrace the Lion was formed, was just to really have these conversations of mental health and of fulfillment. And I just said, I'd help pastors take guns out of their mouths. It's evolved since then, because that's not really relatable to a lot of people. But again, helping good men become great and helping great men create movements, that's what we do now. And so we've got a community around 4,100 guys. I walk with guys in a group capacity and a one-to-one capacity, and then again on the VC and the private equity side as well.
Your group capacity, how big of a group do you work with? Do you try to keep it intimate still?
Yeah. So at any given time, we don't allow it to get over 20. Yeah. And so, like, right now we're full. And then we'll open different pockets, and we'll allow another 20 in. And so we've got a staff, we've got a team, and we try to keep things, again, my whole thing, like, I'm from big church. I'm from the conversation of, like, I'm not trying to be Jesus. I'm trying to be John the Baptist. And so I'm trying to equip, and I'm trying to foster leadership, and I'm trying to grow communities. Like, there's group coaching, there's mastermind, and there's movement. I'm creating a movement. Like, that's my whole thing, which means that I can't be the guy. I can be that. It's very natural for me. But what I love is equipping others so that we can create, like, a real multiplication effect. And yeah.
I love it. 2 questions.
Please.
Superpower. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Yeah. If I had a superpower, what would it be? My superpower would be to give people the power of the perception of awareness. That's one that I don't think anybody does or would say. If I could give people the gift of awareness, that would be huge. Outside of that, I'd probably like to fly.
If something were to happen to you today, in a few words, how would you want to be remembered, described by your loved ones?
If you saw him on social media and you think he's this real big shot and you think he's so great, and he says all these pretty words, and we know that he's a really great copywriter and he takes really pretty pictures, and a lot of people say really great things about him on podcasts and on shows and his clients, because he, is so committed to his clients. And so now you're asking us, is he as good as you think he is online because he's got all this bullshit publicity around him? No, he's not. He's better. He's who he said he would be.
Yeah.
That when I'm with my son, I put my phone down. That I'm committed to helping him see who he can become and who he is, not based off of an expectation I have for him, because I don't. I do, but I don't. I don't want him to be a me. I don't want him to be a version of me. I want him to be him. But that he would say of his dad, like, he sees me, he knows me, he loves me, he knows the hairs on my head, he holds me, comforts me, he challenges me, he holds me accountable. Yeah. He's there anytime I need him, anytime I call. It doesn't matter what he's doing, he always answers. That if he's on the road, if he's traveling, if he's speaking and I'm not with him, because he'll go with me sometimes, that if I need him, he'll be on the first flight home. That he's not even who you think he is online. He's better.
Yeah. I love that. That's me in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I call it the yes factor with my kids. If my kids ask me to do anything, if you ever look at my storylines or anything my kids ask me to do that's time consuming, it's a yes factor. And it's crazy, Cody, is that the last few years, I've really taken account on time as a currency, and it's something I talk about quite a bit. And it's even looking at my parents as they're becoming in their 70s and understanding it. So even with my dad, and I say this all the time, where if my dad were to call me and say, Jeff, I need you to help me do this. If it was 5 years ago, I would have said, yeah, Dad, no worries. It's on a Monday. I'll come see you on Sunday. Now, if they called me, I'm there because I don't want to live with regret. I don't want to go home and something were to happen to them and live that regret the rest of my life. Same with my kids. It's that zero regret mentality where you live in the moment, you do everything in the moment, and you take care of your loved ones first. That's the priority. And I love what you said, present, because that's something a lot of dads, and something I try to preach all the time too, is a lot of dads will get home and they're like, yeah, I'm with my kids. And one kid's on the couch playing video games, you're on your phone on the other couch. It's not present.
That's not present.
Putting your bloody ass phone down and being present. Like, go for a bike ride. Go play catch with them. Go for a walk with them. And if you have more than one kid, if you ever see anything I do, if you ever want more kids, separate them. What I do with my daughter, I'll do with my son. And I separate them and I give them individual attention so they know and they build that memory bank. So one day when you're not here, they have all those memories, not just gifts. They have the memories they're going to be able to tell their kids, their grandkids about all the memories they built with your dad. So I think that's very precious to do that, especially when they're young, because I mean, there's stats out there that says 90% of the FaceTime we're going to have with their kids before the age of 18. And trust me, your kid's only 6. I could honestly feel like I was holding my daughter and she's in high school now. Yeah. Time goes like this.
Oh, it's, I mean, even at 6, it's wild how
that's crazy.
We just got him enrolled for first grade, and his mom and I were talking like, what?
Yeah. Where's it going?
What happened? What happened?
Yeah. Where could our audience get a hold of you? Where are you most present? Websites, all that stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, CodyJefferson.com. But if you really if you just want to chat, right? You want to hang out. You can find me. I'm probably most active on Instagram. Yeah. So you can just shoot me a direct message. It's Cody_Jefferson. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on all the things, but if we're talking about like where I'm the most present and active, it's going to be Instagram. You can probably find me maybe once or twice a week on Clubhouse, modding a room. It used to be a lot more. And then I recognized it's kind of a time suck. And so it became like a really big echo chamber of everybody saying the same thing all the time. I just want to hear themselves talk. I'm like,
I am on Clubhouse once a week.
Yeah.
With my good friend, Brian Ward from Data Podcast. And we're on once a week and we just on for 1 hour, Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's it. 1 hour dad talk. That's it. I do not look at it. I don't touch it. I don't come near it anymore because I think it's a bunch of coaches trying to sell coaches. Everybody's professional. Everybody's a multimillionaire there.
Everybody, right? I didn't even know there were that many people that were that successful.
And you know how crazy it is there's a lot of individuals that I know on a personal level. And I know what they do for a living. And then I see they're on parked there for 12 hours a day. So all of a sudden they got 30,000 followers because they're parked there for 12 hours a day, which you could build. And then I see their profile and they're like, oh, just exited a $2 billion company. I'm like, buddy, you run a landscape company. We're not you exited a $2 billion company. There's a lot of those. I'm telling you right now, Cody.
Bro, you work at the bank. You work at Chick-fil-A.
Honestly, Cody, I can't stand that shit, man. I avoid that shit.
I know.
I completely avoided that stuff because I can't stand that world, man.
Yeah. That's like what if you go to mine, like my first thing is just like number one dad, that's imposter. Like voted number one dad. I'm like, because I don't get like all of you just like again, it's fine. There's no like animosity. It's just like everybody is so concerned with like trying to. It's just again, we can be really crass with it. It's just a swinging contest, and it's like
that's all it is,
guys. Nobody really nobody cares. Nobody cares. And so it's wild, but yeah, it's just a big circular conversation of like, can I piggyback on this? Can we circle back to this? Hey, can I just add on to this? Oh, I love what you're saying. And everybody's talking over each other. Everybody's trying to get the last word. I'm like, I've never seen so many people just so eager to talk.
And I find it's very fake too. I mean, I go in some rooms and I guess I don't have the adequate to be on there because I'm like, if I have to say something, I'll say it, go. And people are like, I'm complete. And it's just this.
Yeah. Do you feel complete? Do you feel like honestly, value was given? Like what? What do you mean you feel complete? I hope you don't feel complete after like the 60-second little blip on club. I hope not. I hope that you were complete before. right?
This has been awesome, brother. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I appreciate us connecting, and I look forward to keeping our conversation going and our friendship going. So
absolutely,
anything you need. And I mean, obviously when the borders open, you ever head to Toronto, Canada, I mean, I'm always, the doors are always open here for us to hang out.
Listen, you ever find yourself in the Midwest? I got your back. We'll have some fun.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you, man.